What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another Bros Talking Soccer podcast. My name is Dave Knittel. It is World Cup Day 27. Today is, I believe, Tuesday, July 10th. Days are blending together at this point. World Cup semifinals. We just watched France versus Belgium. I'm joined by my two brothers, Christian and Matt, and we are joined by JS Leatherbarrow from Football and the City. JS, how you doing?
Good evening. I'm very well, thank you. How are you getting along?
I am doing fantastic. Can you tell everyone a little bit about Football and the City, please?
Yeah, I'm rubbish at this bit. It's going to be a site based around interviews with players, coaches, people involved in football. Also, quite a deep look into some of the ethics and culture of the game, basically. So, yeah.
So it's a website that people can check out, and we have that link.
Which is, you do know English people are terrible at promoting themselves. You know, we need to learn from you, I think. But yeah, it's going to be footballandthecity.com. It's launching on July 1st. If you imagine Arctic monkeys,
I think August 1st, right? It's launching August 1st.
That's right, August 1st. Yeah. Did I say July 1st?
You did say July 1st, but that's okay. I just wanted to clarify for listeners.
It's that level of professionalism.
Okay.
So it's going to be, the writing is going to be like a cross between Arctic monkeys and Stanley Kubrick having a baby and turning to football journalism.
Okay, all right. So I think we all have a very clear picture of exactly what that means. But you should definitely check it out. I mean, JS is fantastic to interact with. We have his Twitter account linked in the video description and podcast show notes, to definitely give him a follow there and interact with him until site launches. And then we'll obviously plug his stuff once it's ready. Matt, how you doing today?
Doing great, Dave. Just watched a good, first semifinal match. I'm a little tired. I had an exam yesterday, so, still feeling the effects of lack of sleep from yesterday, but I'm doing good.
Yeah, I think YouTube viewers can attest. You look a little tired there, so hopefully you can get some sleep after this. Christian, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Dave. I'm still trying to figure out what the hell JS was talking about over there, but I'm doing well. Today's Chick-fil-A day, for all of you who want to know. And so we went out as a department today to Chick-fil-A, only to find out the store is being renovated, and we couldn't have any.
That is one of the saddest things, going on right now. So we feel for you. We can all, I'm sure, relate to that. And, God forbid you have to go a week without Chick-fil-A. So listeners, I'm sure everybody is just enthralled by all of our conversations thus far. This is a soccer podcast. We'll get to that. If you're watching live on YouTube, please feel free to interact with us as we go along here. I have the chat feature up. Love to hear your thoughts on the match and anything we talk about. If you're listening to the podcast, thanks so much. Feel free to follow us on YouTube. Watch us record live about 15, 20 minutes after matches end each day, or just interact with us on Twitter. Now, before we talk about today's matches, wanted to talk about two quick things going on in the soccer world. So first up, Christian and I had talked about this previously, but Jesse Marsch, head coach of the New York Red Bulls, left New York Red Bulls, joined RB Leipzig. And originally we thought he was taking over as head manager. He is in fact taking over as top assistant. And then once Nagelsmann joins next year, he'll also continue on as top assistant. So I just wanted to provide that clarification in case anyone was a little bit confused by our previous podcast. Matt, anything else to add on this? I know you weren't here before.
No, I have nothing to add on that topic.
Okay. JS,
what would happen theoretically if he had an incredible season and somehow won the league and the Pokal Cup and all that stuff? What would happen then?
My assumption would be he would go to RB Salzburg as head manager. It seems like they're really committed to Nagelsmann taking over at Leipzig, and this is kind of like a transition period for Marsch.
Yeah, I mean, I knew Julian Nagelsmann was taking over, but I mean, can you imagine if he just had this incredible season and won? What would you do? I mean,
yeah, it's such a weird situation in Germany when they do things like this, where they hire managers or sign pre-contracts within the league. Yeah. So yeah, it's always interesting to me about this. Christian, anything else you wanted to add on this?
No, not really.
Okay. The other thing we wanted to talk about, and Christian tried to talk about this on a previous podcast, and I shot him down pretty hard, but Cristiano Ronaldo to Juventus, officially announced today for about 100 million, I think it was euros, 123 million US dollars. I know I saw it reported that. JS, what do you make of the move?
Um, okay, my thing about Ronaldo, I think, is he's clearly one of the great footballers in history. He's just incredible, and somehow he seems to keep getting better with age. I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of him sometimes because, you know, when he was at United, he made the slave comments and disparaging Iceland in the Euros and the winking and some of the dive, you know, all that kind of stuff. However, I think this is a perfect move for him at this time because he his still at his peak somehow, but you have to imagine over the next couple of years he's going to drop off a little bit, and this way it won't diminish his legacy with Real. And if they don't, if Juve, for example, don't go on and mount like a serious Champions League challenge again, he's always got that kind of fallback of, oh, you know, well, everyone will say he's playing with weak players and all of that kind of stuff if his level does start to drop. So I think it's partly an image thing. It's a good thing for him. You know what I mean? It keeps his status as it is. It won't diminish. He's gone out at the top from Real, so career-wise, it's perfect. I mean, he's obviously still going to add a lot to Juventus, and they've got some exceptional players. I mean, they were talking about there was some kind of random rumor about Dybala to Liverpool, but why would he want to go now? You know,
is that a peacock?
No, that was him moving the chair. I know
that
you
was
can't
the
see.
chair. Yeah.
No peacocks on the podcast yet. Matt, what do you make of the Juve move for Ronaldo?
I think it's smart for him. I think there was only one way to go at Real Madrid, where, you know, he's the top scorer in their club history now, if I'm correct. He just won 4 out of 5 Champions Leagues. And, you know, they're going to transition into kind of like a younger team. I feel like his generation, I think Ramos is going to continue to play, but I think him and Ramos and like that reign, they're going to be starting to be pushed out a little bit, make this kind of Isco's team. And Asensio probably going forward. So I think it's good for, you know, both parties at the time he's leaving. And I'm excited for Serie A, who seems like they're making serious moves to become, you know, bigger on the world stage.
Absolutely, good points. Christian, thoughts on the move?
Yeah, I think that every single party is benefiting from this transfer. I think Ronaldo is going to be in a slightly easier league as he's aging, and he's going to just be the star of that team. I think that Juventus is getting a huge player and going to benefit financially just because he's practically his own franchise at the moment, and they're going to make so much money off of just him as a person. And I think Serie A is going to benefit. They're going to start to improve. They're attracting a huge talent there. And Madrid are getting a huge sum of money for a person who's going to be 34 in about 6 months. And then for me, I get to see much less of him. So it's just benefits all around.
There you go. So
Christian's another not particularly big fan of him as well. Then I see. So.
Yeah.
We do exist in the world of football. You know, as a player, let me just clarify this. I mean, he's incredible, isn't he? He's basically taken the athlete footballer thing to its logical conclusion. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I think all of us can appreciate his game just looking narrowly at when he has the ball and when he's doing things positively. Now, the diving and the theatrics and some of the off-field stuff, you know, I think most of us can agree, you know, we could do without. But, I mean, he's a fantastic player. I don't really have much more to add. I think, you know, you all kind of hit the nail on the head. This makes sense for absolutely everyone involved. Real Madrid basically gets their investment returned after having him there for almost 10 years. And, you know, it just makes sense for absolutely everybody. So, yeah, I don't have anything else to add. Let's talk about the World Cup now, since that's what this podcast is about. Today, we saw France versus Belgium. That finished 1-0 to France. They are headed to the World Cup final, first time since 2006. JS, what'd you make of the match?
Can I just mention one more thing very quickly before we go on to the match? Also, the other huge football news was the Thai boys being rescued from the cave today. I thought that might be worth a quick mention, just a shout out to, you know, their bravery, the coach, and then obviously the entire rescue team and the guy who lost his life and the medics and everything else. That was a really lovely story, I thought. So,
Yeah.
or you know, a nice end to a really horrible thing that was going on. So yeah, good news. So
absolutely.
Anyway, sorry. Yeah. So
no. So that's actually really good. So I've been following it more at a high level. I think I understand the basics of kind of what was going on. I think you've been following it a little bit more. Can you recap for people, you know, what was happening there?
Essentially, they got trapped in a cave in Thailand. They were kind of on a sort of walking thing, I think, or it might have been biking actually. But either way, I think the water basically rose and it trapped them inside the cave, so they couldn't get out. So I think my understanding was the journey into the cave on the dive was like 3 hours, I think, there and back. So I think that's right. And yeah, essentially one of the guys ran out of oxygen. I'm pretty sure that's what happened to him. So
one of the rescuers.
One of the rescuers, and they got them out in stages over two and a half days. I think they got 4 out on the first day, and then yeah, they've finally got the rest of them out today. So it's just incredible. I thought that was.
Absolutely. So, you know, we're thankful all of the kids and the coach were okay. We obviously have our condolences and wish our best to, you know, the man who lost his life and his family, trying to rescue them. So, yeah, very good. You know, hopefully everyone comes out of this, you know, okay, you know, psychologically and all of that. So we wish everybody the best from that. Now let's talk about today's match, France versus Belgium. It finished 1-0 to France. They go on to the World Cup final. JS, what did you think of the match?
I thought it was extremely even, to be honest. I mean, you think actually, I think both defences did very, very well today when you consider the incredible attacking talent both teams have. That it was decided on one set piece goal, essentially. I think France, that was one of the most complete defensive displays I've seen in a very, very long time. Varane, somebody said, I think it was last week, someone put a comment on Twitter about Varane being the best centre-back in world football at the moment. And then I was thinking, oh, maybe Hummels because of the way he controls the space. And then there's obviously Ramos and Piqué, but I kind of feel like Piqué's starting to dip now. Huh?
Diego Godin is the best center back on the team.
Yeah, that was actually my sort of half counter to it. But the more I see of Varane, the more I'm actually sort of slowly warming to that idea. I just think Titi got man of the match. He was good, but I think he probably got it because, you know, he scored, obviously. But personally, I think Varane was probably man of the match. I think, you know, and I think their defensive resilience ultimately decided that game. Yeah,
good point.
Just very brief summary. Technically brilliant. I think it was the best technical game of the World Cup. Both teams just outstanding footballers throughout, you know, 1 to 11 pretty much. It was. I love those games. I love the kind of chess matches. But yeah, I fear it if we get to the final.
We being England, for anyone who may not know what we means, but I just real quick on your Varane point. I mean, I've been saying that I think it's between him and Hummels as the best two in the world for me, and I've been saying that for a little bit of time. But before, you know, I say anything else, Matt, your thoughts on the match?
Yeah, I thought France played extremely well after maybe the first 15 minutes. It seemed like their midfield was kind of out of sorts the beginning of the game, and then they figured out how Belgium was playing because like De Bruyne was lined up or at the start of the game on the left side, and then they just had to kind of figure out that formation. I think it was listed as a 3-5-2, but it was more like the 3-4-2-1 with De Bruyne and Hazard kind of playing underneath. So I think once France figured that out, they kind of controlled the tempo of the game, like through the midfield. I think they did a good job stopping De Bruyne and forcing him into some uncharacteristic mistakes. I think he could have played better, but I thought France defensively, Varane, I agree with you guys where he is undoubtedly for me like among the best center backs in the world. You can make arguments for a couple of them, but I thought Umtiti did have his best game. I've been critical of him so far in the World Cup, but I thought defensively today he played very well.
Christian, thoughts on the match?
Actually, see, I know.
Okay, hold up. I don't know where you are, but wherever you are, it's not coming through incredibly clearly. So, where are you, real quick?
In the car.
Okay, you're in the car. Are you almost home? Sorry, listeners.
Not.
Okay, I'm gonna give my thoughts. Christian, sorry, but we can't really hear you, so I'm gonna give my thoughts on the match, and hopefully, whenever I'm done, you can chime in, Christian, and you'll be in a better reception spot. So for me, I mean, I agree with a lot of what you guys said. I thought it was surprising that Dembele was in for Meunier, and they just kind of really packed the midfield for Belgium, and they just had no real width. I thought, France was content to sit back and let Belgium try to dictate the match and try to be more offensive. And, it just seemed like that was their game plan, and they kind of executed it kind of to perfection. So for me, France came out basically as expected. Sorry, they're doing some plumbing work I don't know if anybody can hear that, but it's very distracting to me in the building. So apologies. Okay, nobody can hear it. Okay, good. France came out with their lineup basically as expected, and then Belgium's lineup was a little bit different. Christian, are you somewhere with better reception at this point?
No.
No. Okay. All right. That answers that. So sorry about that. Now let's get into some of the specifics. Matt, I thought, you were spot on. I thought Belgium was finding some space on the wings initially, but then France sort of started to get things figured out. Chadley, though Belgium was basically from a formational lineup, I think it was listed as a 3-5-2, and that's what it was going forward. But defensively, it was definitely more of a 4-2-3-1. I thought it was really interesting. Fellaini was actually man-marking Pogba throughout the match, which was something really different. I didn't necessarily expect to see that. And so you kind of saw when Fellaini came out, Pogba came more to life in the match. But JS, what did you think of that strategy?
Yeah, I mean, obviously teams, they have quite fluid formations nowadays. They're very dynamic in terms of how they set up to attack and defend. As for the Fellaini Pogba thing, yeah, do you know what? He actually did quite a good job, because really, as an attacking threat, Pogba was sort of nullified. But what I would say is Pogba had a great game, actually. I thought he was disciplined, did all of the defensive stuff incredibly well, to the extent that I think him and Matuidi actually did probably an equal amount, if not more, breaking up of play than Conte did, because he's there for that job. I mean, that's what he does in every single team, and he's incredible, Conte. I hate saying that because as a Chelsea player and I'm a Spurs fan, but he is one of the world's best, if not the best in that maybe not the best. I mean, there are a few very good number sixes, but he's there, isn't he? There or thereabouts. And I think that's testament to the job Pogba and Matuidi did. The fact that he didn't need to do as much of it today, actually.
Absolutely. Matt, what did you think of man-marking Pogba?
I didn't love it necessarily, because Pogba wasn't going forward. He kind of was neutralized like the whole game. He wasn't creating too much. I know he had a couple. He almost sent Mbappe through in the first half. He had a couple moments, but it wasn't like he was dominating the game, kind of like we expect from how he typically plays the center mid position. I thought Fellaini was kind of getting drawn out of position, or kind of positionless throughout the entire game. I just thought that was strange, because that made like De Bruyne, who is also kind of a positionless player, they had kind of a two in their midfield, and I just thought that was like creating too much confusion with the spaces.
I completely agree on that. It was very odd. I'm being completely honest. I don't know whether they didn't execute Martinez's strategy well, or whether it was just it wasn't set up right, because I noticed that there was some very, very weird things, even when they were kind of dropping back into some defensive motions. There was one point where it was Hazard and De Bruyne trying to break up play on the halfway line when Fellaini and Witsel were both in front of them, and you like, that's not the right way around. You know, I mean, De Bruyne was, like Matt said, he was going on the left quite a bit in the opening stages, and then towards the end of the game, he was playing deep and often on the right and dropping back to an almost right wing back position. It just looked a bit confused. Having said that, we're kind of making it sound like Belgium were really poor, and they weren't. I mean, they weren't, were they? It was such an even game that was literally decided on a set piece, and if it could have gone the other way from this, do you know what I mean? It's one of those where we're kind of looking for Belgium mistakes, but actually they did very well. They nullified France. You know, they nullified Griezmann, they nullified Mbappe. They stopped Pogba doing what he's done really well this tournament, which is in the attacking phases. So actually, I think Belgium did really well then. It really could have gone. It could have. Do you know what I mean? That could have been 1-0 either way. That game.
Exactly. It was a set piece that was the difference. I think I was just about to go to Christian, but he's on mute now. It seems like he probably is getting out of the car. That would be my assumption. Christian, do you have thoughts? No. Okay. We'll come back to Christian at some point. Yeah, we will get him on.
The magic of live podcasting.
Yes, exactly. So apologies, everyone. But to JS's point, I mean, that's a really good point. I mean, this was so even. There really wasn't a ton of open chances for either team from open play. And, we kind of were a bit negative on Belgium, but they didn't, they did a good job of shutting France down for the most part. And, just didn't get that one chance to break their way. Now, getting into the specifics of the match, 22nd minute, there is a corner for Belgium. It's struck in. Fellaini kind of gets a settle, kind of deflects off of him, but it falls very kindly to Toby Alderweireld, who turns and hits it. Quick turn, really nice strike for a center back on, with his weaker foot. It's going into, the far corner, and Lloris, just a good reaction save, full extension, taps it around the post. Matt, thoughts on this play?
Yeah, I thought it was a good hit in the center back. He did exactly what he needed to. He put it in the corner. You can't blame it just for him being a center back, not being able to finish. It was a good shot. It was a great save. There's nothing more to really say about it. It wasn't because of the way the ball bounced, you can't really blame the marking by France. It was just a good play all around.
Agreed. And, I'm not blaming anybody. This was more just the only really chance for Belgium in the game. I mean, from open play, this was their best and only chance. So, it's unfortunate they weren't able to convert there, but, it was a good opportunity. 34th minute, then Griezmann plays a ball out to Mbappe, who hits first time across the box. Okay, so this is the one where the ball was kind of bouncing back and forth. Yeah, sorry, as I'm going through, I got to read my notes. This is the one where the ball is kind of bouncing back and forth, and finally Griezmann gets the ball in the center of the park, settles it. He looks up, and we are joined by Christian. Hello. He is back. He is in here twice, though, which makes me nervous that we're going to get an echo any minute now. So, Christian, make sure to leave one of these guys. Off. There you go. Okay. There you go. All right, you're back. All right, Christian is with us. Christian, love to get your thoughts on this match.
Sorry, still getting situated here.
Okay. Okay. Oh man, he just left by accident. Okay, so we'll come back to him. Okay. Okay.
Wrong button. Okay. Press the wrong button.
Okay, everybody. This is podcast is off the rails at this point. All right, Christian.
The game. I actually had a bunch of conversations with people at work about how disappointed we were with how the game went. I thought it would be way more open than it was, but I guess it's a World Cup semifinal, so that was a little bit stupid to think about going into the game. Both teams have such attacking creativity and quality that it was very disappointing from my perspective. But the goalkeepers both made incredible saves during that game. So I guess there were chances. It just wasn't consistent, and there were few and far between. But I still think that the goalkeepers were massive, and Lloris again stepped up when he needed to and made that incredible save.
Both teams also had world-class defenders. So as much as we want to highlight the world-class attacking, I mean, we were just talking about Varane, who's incredibly talented. Umtiti's starting for Barcelona. Then you have Alderweireld, Company's captain of Man City, one of the best center backs when healthy in the Premier League. There was a ton of talent all over the field, both attacking and defending. I'm in your camp as well, Christian. I think deep down, I knew it was going to go this way, but I had hopes that it would be more attacking and open and flowing there. Now, getting back to what I was talking about before, 34th minute, France has a really good chance. This was kind of indicative of Giroud's entire game, but Griezmann finally settles the ball after it was bouncing back and forth a little bit. He turns and has a little bit of space, lofts the ball out to the right wing, where Mbappe is in pretty good space. He hits a first-time volley across the center of the box to Giroud, who is open. He gets a little bit of pressure from Alderweireld, but not enough to really have him miss as bad as he did. And so Giroud is kind of sliding, falling over, and hits the ball. It goes way wide of the net. Matt, your thoughts on this chance?
Yeah, I think Mbappe and Griezmann did everything they were supposed to do. Giroud, for as much as he brings to the game, he's not. You expect him to finish no matter what that chance, or at least put it on frame, or even keep his balance, because it wasn't like he was pressured that much. Maybe he felt like a little bit of a touch, but it seemed like his legs just weren't, in the game. Like maybe he was just tired, from playing for however many months straight. And you just expect, the number 9 for France to hit the target there. But Mbappe did everything he was supposed to do.
Yeah, and Giroud also had some other chances throughout the game that he just wasn't able to connect on. JS, your thoughts on this play?
I think the few even kind of semi chances he had, I think that's where the difference is between. He's clearly an incredibly good striker. I mean, what is he? I think he's 4th on the all-time leading scorers list for France now. I think he's just gone one ahead of Zidane. But I kind of feel like there's another echelon of strikers above him who would have scored 1 or 2 of those tonight. Probably Cavani, probably Kane, possibly even Lukaku if he was given really good chances like that. Yeah, I don't think he had his best game, but you can understand why he's there. I mean, I was kind of working out earlier if England beat Croatia tomorrow, which of the England team would get into that France team, and it's probably Kane up front and possibly Trippier for Pavard. But only on the strength of the fact that Pavard isn't actually a right
or
back.
Walker.
So. Yeah, but Walker for who?
For
Pavard. You mean back to his right back slot? Yeah, exactly. But that's pretty much it. So but that does highlight that is, even though he's an exceptionally gifted footballer, that's probably their one tiny weak area. France is,
I'd agree with that. Christian, any thoughts on the Giroud play here?
Yeah, I can't tell if I'm watching CJ Sapong or Olivier Giroud out there in all these games. He just is so good in the link-up play and holding up the ball, and then just can't finish. Like, he gets in the positions and still can't finish. It just drives me nuts to watch strikers do that. Like, it's just painful to watch. But he really does his role well, so you can't bench him. Like, he's an integral part of that attack. But
I agree.
The actual play is just it was beautiful. Griezmann's ball over the top, Mbappe right in there, plays it across. I still think Mbappe could have put it a little bit further in front, but it's a one-time ball out of the air, so I don't really fault him. And then Giroud's finish is just oof.
Yeah, no, that's a fantastic comparison. I wish more people probably had any idea what you were talking about, but for Union fans, you'll get that. But even MLS fans probably won't have any idea what that means. But so next real major chance of the game comes in the 39th minute. This is where Varane and Lukaku have a coming together on a 50-50 ball. There's a foul by Lukaku on Varane, but the referee ends up allowing play to continue on. Eventually, the ball gets slipped to Mbappe, and Mbappe is able to draw 4 defenders. And as he's cutting in, Pavard kind of overlaps and slips in behind. Mbappe plays a perfect ball into him. It's Pavard on the kind of right side of the 6-yard box. And so he elects to shoot, and Courtois ends up making a save there. Now, there was a possibility to square it back. So I think he could have gone in a different direction. Christian, what did you think about this play? Should Pavard have shot in that? What do you think?
Yeah, I absolutely agree with his decision to shoot from there. You're 8 yards out, inside the box, just outside the post. You always go low to the far post. I mean, if you watch Messi, you go between Courtois' legs, as we've seen multiple times in the Champions League. But you have to go. In my opinion, you always go far post, and the goalie will have to make a save. You never know where the ball will fall. You don't know if it could possibly squeak its way through. And he made the right decision. It's just he's a right back, a very young right back, taking a shot there, and Courtois is one of the best goalies in the world. So he made a great save, and I think everyone did well on that play.
Matt, thoughts on the play? Did he choose correctly?
Yeah, absolutely. You don't pass up that shot. You have a direct, sight on goal, from however many, 10 yards out. You rarely get in a position to do that. And, you don't risk that to play it across the box, to have it intercepted, to not even be able to create a chance. You got to test the goalie. At that point, there wasn't really much testing of Courtois. He had a really good second half, but at that point, he had pretty much nothing to do. He won a corner out of it, and he took the chance and created another one. So, right move.
JS, thoughts on this play?
I think Christian pretty much summed up exactly what I thought about it, basically.
All right, easy enough.
I have nothing to add.
All
I
right.
mean, he did. It was the right decision, forced him to make a save.
Christian's very proud of himself.
Got the weight of the world on my shoulders over here. Ugh.
Christian's very proud of himself for that. So that was all I had from the first half. First half ends 0-0. Again, I thought on the balance of play, Belgium controlled the match from possession-wise, but really there wasn't a ton of chances either way. I think each team kind of had one big chance. I mean, you could argue, the Giroud chance was the other big chance. So 0-0 at halftime probably could have been 1-1. Again, Belgium controlling possession, but France looked very comfortable, didn't really look out of sorts. Second half starts pretty early in the second half. 51st minute, France gets their goal. Now, before we talk about the specific play on the corner, I thought it was fantastic build-up play to earn the corner kick. And so the ball was out wide. I think it was either Griezmann or Hernandez. I'm not sure exactly who had it on the left side of France's attack. But then Matuidi makes a great run up through the middle. And instead of going to the corner, he fades and he almost runs like, comparing it to American football, like kind of like a seam route in between the coverage. And so he didn't go over enough where the passing lane was closed down, and he left enough space. And so whoever had the ball, I think it was Griezmann, but again, I can't remember if it was Griezmann or Hernandez, plays a perfect ball in between the defenders. And Matuidi takes a good touch and then very quickly taps it to his right to Giroud. And he plays it in quick enough that Giroud has company off balance. Giroud does fantastic hold-up play, as we all, kind of know Giroud to do. And is able to turn company very, very quickly and get a shot off. Company ends up blocking it. It goes out for the corner, and this is where France scored their goal. The ball is driven in to the near post, and Umtiti gets ahead on it, ahead of Fellaini. So that was, just long-winded, I know, way. I'm just setting it all up. Matt, what did you make of the play to set it up and then the goal?
Yeah, I thought it was good build-up play. Company, he didn't look good in his first match was... I'm trying to remember.
He played against England, but he didn't. I don't believe he started. I think he came on late in England. His first start was in the round of 16.
Yeah, so I don't think Company has been looked that great so far in the tournament. So I thought he had a good game. It was a good block on the shot. France had a good build-up play, but on the corner, I think it was Stu Holden on the call was blaming Fellaini for either leaving the front post or not getting to the ball, but it was kind of just, it wasn't his man to get there. I think it was Leatherbarrow that was marking him, and he got beat. And Fellaini challenged, he got beat by, a split second, but I don't think you blame Fellaini for getting beat to his zonal, like, near post mark.
Fair enough. JS, what were your thoughts on the build-up and then the goal?
I think it was Hernandez, by
Okay,
the
it was
way.
Hernandez.
Pretty sure, yeah. Yeah, I actually know what, Christian.
God forbid it was a Spurs player losing their mark in the box.
No. He's talking about who set up the play.
Oh, okay. I thought he was saying the guy who lost their mark in the box.
Also, Hernandez is French,
Yeah.
not Belgian. So that's the big clue. But yeah, I don't know. I think Umtiti did incredibly well to get across like that, and it was pretty 50-50. I mean, maybe 5 times out of 10 the defender gets it 5 times. I think Umtiti did brilliantly. I'm actually, do you know what? I hate this because I actually had a bit of a go at Gary Neville the other day because he was saying on the punditry after what match was it? I can't remember, but basically there was a great goal in it, and he was kind of saying like, "Oh, the keeper should have saved it." Oh, it was the Russia game. It was Russia Croatia, and it was the Cheryshev goal?
What?
Gary Neville the other day.
What the fuck? Are you kidding me?
How would Subasic have saved that shot?
How would he have possibly saved it?
Right. This is what I was saying. And then anyway, this led on to a whole discussion where someone else on the panel said, "Oh yeah, but you said this about whatever goal, like the Coutinho Brazil goal, the great goal." And he went through about 5 of the great goals in the tournament, and basically the bottom line was the keeper should have saved it.
Okay.
And I was like, so I kind of tweeted about this. I was like, Gary Neville killing the joy of all these great goals and all this kind of stuff. So, and I do hate criticising keepers, especially ones of Courtois' level. And to a certain extent, there's possibly the argument that his kind of taking. I'm not sure he should have got beaten at his near post like that. From that,
that's an interesting. Okay, that's an interesting take. Christian, your thoughts?
That is a very interesting take. I can't blame Courtois at all on that one. I really can't. I think that if he stood tall, yeah, he may have actually saved it. But with headers, they are the most difficult thing for any goalie to save because there's no way to read where it's going to go. It's so difficult to save a header. And half the time the attacker doesn't even know where it's going to go. So you have to, it's all about reactions, and in that position from 6 yards out, that ball most of the time will go in if it's headed the way that Umtiti did, and I do not blame Courtois for that at all.
So for the both, go ahead, JS.
I was just going to say, would someone who's, for example, would Pickford maybe have saved that this sort?
Well, for sure not.
Okay. So getting back
Tim
to
Howard would have saved it.
getting back to JS's point about Umtiti basically winning 50% of the balls, the attackers are going to win 50%. Belgium's going to win, and then Christian's point about Courtois not being able to get there. This is why, for me, it just doesn't make sense why there wasn't guys on the post. On a corner kick, it's a 50-50 ball, at the end of the day. Like, yes, you can say, oh, man marking, you can prevent, or zonal marking, whatever. At the end of the day, attackers are going to win headers, right? It's just going to happen. There's going to be chances that they get. Why not have a man on the post or on both posts, for me, that in case the ball gets in there, there's just an extra body where it could have gotten deflected. I'm not saying it definitely would have prevented this goal because it happened so quickly, but for me, why not have a guy there? Matthew.
Wasn't Fellaini there to start the play? Okay.
No.
I didn't know.
Courtois never, ever has anyone on his post ever, and it drives me nuts, too.
Okay.
So is it a goalkeeper preference? Like, is he the one making the call then, maybe?
I think it depends on the manager and the team that you're on, but I'm sure that it is, because I'm pretty sure for Chelsea, he never has anyone on the post either.
Interesting.
That is interesting. Well, I was going to say, actually, on that note, I don't know if anyone else has noticed, but during this tournament, there have actually been some quite unusual corner positions in terms of the setup. Like they seem to be going a lot deeper than, you know, often teams do, and then running it. I think it's a new trend. I mean, there are often trends in tactics, and then teams pick up on them, and everyone else does it. But have you seen the England thing where they all just line up in a row?
Yep.
It's really
We
weird.
used to do that when we were kids all the time. That was always the play.
It's so weird. It's weird, but it's effective. It's obviously working. But for example, like you said, I mean, that is defending set pieces 101, especially from corners. Have people on the post. It's obvious.
But there's plenty of teams that don't do it for whatever reason. Christian, sorry.
And this is why I kind of agree with Dave. He was going on about this, I think, last podcast. Why don't you defend in a zone instead of man marking? It does actually make sense to me. I actually prefer to do that as well.
Yeah, and so and I'm well on the record of that. I know a lot of people will say, you know, whatever, man tracking will you know, you'll be able to follow them a bit more. But for me, it's just go out and win the ball. And so I think in a zone, you know, it's just easier for you to just track that. And then you have guys on the post. You're not going to win everything. So especially in this age where referees are calling fouls, and you're much more likely to foul somebody if you're in a zone, if you're in a man and you're trying to track them, you know, that's kind of where I stand there. But
what's the just out of interest, what's the kind of punditry take on that in America?
It depends. So I think a lot of people just generally just have something against zonal marking for whatever reason. It's just railed against by a lot of pundits.
So yeah, okay. So that's not just an English thing then, because basically it drives more or less all of our pundits mad.
In fairness, a lot of American commentary is influenced by English commentary. So I think that's that kind of plays a role. Second half, again, further in the second half, Mbappe has that ridiculous pass in the 56th minute. Just wanted to highlight that. You know, he rolls it on from his right to his left, back flick to Giroud in behind. He was just feeling it, you know, especially in the second half. Dembele comes off in the 60th minute for Belgium, and Mertens comes on, the first kind of tactical shift we saw from Belgium. De Bruyne is pulled back further into midfield, and Mertens kind of goes off onto the right wing. I didn't think Dembele played well, which is disappointing because I'm a huge Dembele fan going back to his time at Fulham. I think he's been absolutely fantastic. But I didn't think he had a particularly good game. Christian, any thoughts on Dembele and or this sub?
I was really disappointed in Dembele. I actually been asking for him to come in and play more. Martinez listened to me finally, which was nice, I guess. But I thought Dembele was really, really poor. He usually never gives the ball away. He's always moving, and he didn't seem to be that at all.
Matt, thoughts?
Yeah, I think like it was more tactics with how they lined up their midfield and how their midfield performed, and just how each player was occupying the space. And I think it was always going to be tough for him, but he didn't necessarily play well. And at that time in the game, you had to throw in an attacker.
JS, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, he's my favourite player at Spurs and has been for a few years. Most players at the club and Pochettino think he is the best player at the club. And I know we've got Kane and Eriksen and so on, but I actually find that a bit hard to argue with. Today, I don't think he was. I don't think he was great, to be honest. I mean, I don't know whether that was slightly influenced by the fact that they packed essentially three players, Dembele, Fellaini, and Witsel, who more or less kind of do the same thing and do the same. Yeah, they're occupying each other's space, but then he didn't do the things he did get to do particularly well. And I think, did Christian say? Was it about him never losing the ball and all? Yeah, it was, and he did, and I've never seen, you know, I mean, you can watch him for a season over Spurs and he might give the ball away like 5 times or something. You know what I mean? Or like so rarely. Yeah. And he probably did it 4 or 5 times tonight, and it's just weird watching him play like that.
Absolutely. 65th minute comes along. Fellaini gets a header off of Mertens' cross. That was probably Belgium's only goal. It was kind of only chance. They didn't get any goals. Not to rub it in. Yeah. But this was really their only chance from open play or really even from anything in the second half. So I just wanted to highlight it there. I thought it was interesting, especially as Fellaini went to left wing late in the match or late during his time. Pogba was actually almost man-marking Fellaini. As soon as Fellaini kind of got towards the penalty area, you saw Pogba really drop off the midfield line and just basically man-mark Fellaini. So again, something weird and interesting to see. And then finally, Carrasco comes on and takes off Fellaini in the 80th minute. JS, thoughts on Fellaini's positioning and, in the second half?
Yeah, it was strange. He was playing like an inside forward towards the end before he came off. It was very odd. I don't understand. It's again, we're going to pick apart Belgium because they lost, but again, they actually didn't play that badly. However, I think some of the tactical stuff was a little bit confused. Also, I did notice that Martinez in the previous games actually made his substitutions and tactical switches a little bit too late. So even in the Japan game, all the substitutions he made, me and quite a lot of others were calling for them about 10 minutes before he made them. And obviously they won, and that's fine. But I was a little bit worried that if things weren't going their way today, he might have made those substitutions and little tweaks a little bit too late. And I feel he did today. And that proved to be the case, because Mertens was excellent when he came on. Actually, he caused a lot of trouble down the right, But again, I mean, he was sort of occupying space that De Bruyne started drifting into, and it was odd. I didn't quite get all the tactical switches tonight. I didn't understand why he thought they would work, because they didn't really,
Matt, any thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, like Fellaini throughout at that point, you have to kind of throw him in the box because he can create kind of from nothing. But I think throughout the game, he was kind of pushed out to, I think it was the left wing, too much, where he wasn't in the box, and they only had Lukaku to cross to.
Christian, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think that he was kind of playing the role that Mandzukic plays at Juventus, where you kind of put your big man striker up on the left, but they weren't using him in that way. It's like they put him in that position, but they didn't actually use him as a hold-up player or someone who's going to win the headers.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit odd to me, and he wasn't really effective once they put him there.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, and the other thing was, I mean, if he's going to do that, I would have thought it made more sense to put him on Hernandez, who's a little bit smaller.
Exactly.
But it seemed like, they just weren't even trying to play him in the air. So yeah, I think that was really interesting. France's first subs came in the 85th and 86th minutes. I thought that was really interesting. I mean, France looked in control, and so I get that they didn't want to make any substitutions and disrupt any rhythm, but it was still surprising considering waiting that late. So I just wanted to highlight that. And then Pogba sets up two chances once Fellaini comes off, both in the 90th, stoppage time. 93rd, he sets up Griezmann, who Courtois saves really well. And then same thing happens in the 96th. Again, good save by Courtois. Those were the last things I wanted to highlight from the match. JS, anything you wanted to highlight from the rest of the match?
No, I mean, I think Deschamps got it right, didn't he, basically, today? I mean, they, like you said, once they'd kind of figured Belgium out, they didn't really struggle too much. I mean, there was some kind of flashes of brilliance from Hazard. De Bruyne always looks dangerous when he plays, some through balls and whatever. I mean, is probably right up there in the top 3 passes in world football at the moment. But it's tough to say. Did France deserve it? Probably, yeah, because I think defensively they were more or less flawless today. But again, on another day, it could have been a Belgium set piece that went. It really was a cigarette paper between them today, I think.
Absolutely. Matt, anything else to add from this match?
Yeah, I'm just happy to see a team that I think deserves to kind of be in the final. A team with the talent is going to be competing.
Christian?
I really want to highlight that De Bruyne pass in like the 80-something minute where he played it over the top to Lukaku. My God. I don't know why Lukaku stopped, But what a freaking ball over the top. And if Lukaku really had not stopped, I assume he thought Umtiti was going to win it. But if he had not stopped, that was like the perfect pass in behind where he could have either flicked it first time or brought it down on his chest. He was in space too.
Yeah, I think in a minor defense of Lukaku there, he assumed that Umtiti was going to cuss it out, so he'd kind of already given up on it. He shouldn't have, but
I mean, you're a striker. You got to expect the mistakes.
No, I agree. Yeah. You're right. But all I'm saying is that was clearly his thinking, and it did look like he was going to cuss it out, and then didn't. On that note, Umtiti, who had an excellent game, should have cut that out.
Yeah.
So, you know.
And one last thing I wanted to highlight was both goalkeepers were absolutely outstanding again. I think that those two and Pickford have probably been the best three goalkeepers on form in the World Cup, and there's no coincidence why those three are in the semifinals.
And Subasic, I mean, has played pretty well for Croatia as well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, throwing him in there.
There you go.
Yeah, so definitely great stuff. I mean, I want to echo JS brought up Hazard. I thought he played really well, especially on the dribble. Just him getting out of some of those tight spaces. I think he maybe held onto it a little bit too long and dribbled himself into after he beat three guys, he didn't need to beat the fourth and was cut out. But I thought he played really well. Keepers played pretty well, and overall, it was just a 1-0 match, but it was still a really good match. So props to France. Yep. What's up, JS?
Pick up on a point, Christian. Was it Christian or Matt who said it was a team that really deserved to be there?
Matt.
It was Matt. Yeah, I agree. God, this is going to sound absolutely traitorous towards England, but I actually kind of feel like they were the two teams that deserved to be in the final from this tournament. I actually do believe that, unfortunately. And if England had have, not fielded their B team against Belgium's B team, it is inevitably stronger, then I really think we would have been looking at a France-Belgium final, to be honest.
That was who I predicted before the tournament started, and I thought that they were the two best teams. And as we're gonna probably talk about in a little bit, I think whoever won this game is the favorite to win the World Cup. So with that being said, I have France. So before we talk about tomorrow's Croatia versus England match, I wanted to give a quick plug for our partner, StadiumScene.tv. StadiumScene.tv is a travel blog for anyone going to stadiums in and around the U.S., stadiums and or arenas. So if you're going to a hockey game or a basketball game or baseball, soccer, whatever, you want to go to stadiumscene.tv and check out the website for recommendations on what to do, where to park, and all of that. In addition to that, they also partner with content creators like us at Bros Talking Soccer. They have a bunch of other partners across all different sports, making YouTube videos, blog posts, podcasts, so on and so forth. Go check out stadiumscene.tv. With that, let's talk about JS has gotten another drink. You all set there?
I'm good.
Okay, I powered.
You were really quiet. I'm really.
Yeah, I powered through the background noise there, which I'm sure people on YouTube will appreciate.
Did you hear it?
I
couldn't even hear it through my headphones.
So. Yeah, no worries. So we have Croatia versus England semifinal tomorrow. JS, do you want to go first or do you want to wrap it up?
I'll apologize first.
No worries.
I actually feel a little bit flushed. What was the question?
Croatia versus England. Do you want to preview first?
Did you know
want
England play tomorrow?
I was vaguely aware of it. I think. If I've got my really, really logical head on, which as we're analysing the game, I think it's a really tough game for England. My main issue is the centre of the midfield, essentially. If we set up how we have done in the other matches, and we've got Sterling, Ali and Lingard, which is going to leave so much space in the centre because we're only playing the single pivot with Henderson, who's been outstanding. But I can't see how, if we play that isn't just going to allow so much space between Henderson and the attacking players, which will allow Modric and Rakitic to control the game. And with Croatia at the moment, it's a bit of a rock and a hard place situation. If you crowd the middle and compress the middle, like Russia did, and to a certain extent Denmark, then it frees up space on the wings, and then you've got Perisic and Rebic, and it's like a rock and a hard place because obviously Modric and Rakitic are a level above those. In fact, Modric is, now Iniesta's winding down, probably the best central midfielder in world football. What do you do? Do you compress the space and give it to Perisic and Rebic, who have looked lethally dangerous this tournament, or do you try and keep it fairly wide, keep the gap so it allows us to attack, and then allow Modric and Rakitic to control the game? My logical head says there's no good way of doing that unless we remove maybe Ali or Lingard, perhaps use more of an out-and-out wing-back thing, or I don't know. I think I think we're struggling on this one. Logical head. I can't see how, unless we go with a double pivot and throw maybe Dyer and Henderson together and take off one of the attacking options, we're just going to get killed in the centre of the park.
Yeah, and I haven't been overly impressed with Dyer this tournament. But Matt, your thoughts on tomorrow's match?
I think in open play, Croatia is definitely favored, considering their midfield and how they operate. Modric has been incredible throughout this tournament. I think he is so good. The way he kind of dictates the pace of play, and he almost never makes a mistake. And he seems to never get tired either because he doesn't overexert himself. He's always in the right spot. So I think in open play, Croatia is a little bit better in their style, but in set pieces, Kane, Maguire, Stones, their ability to create in a set piece situation, England's not out of this by any means. I think they could easily get some goals through set pieces, through Kane, and maybe Sterling. He'll kick a ball once, strike a ball properly once and get a goal. But I think Croatia's slightly favored, but England's definitely got a shot.
Christian, thoughts?
Oh God, this is so difficult. I want England to win, but I picked Croatia to win, so I'm like having a complex here. I really think that in open play, I gotta disagree with Matt. I think England have so much pace that they're gonna give, Lovren always has issues with playing against attackers with pace. And yeah, Kane is the striker, so he's not the threat, but Sterling can run straight by Lovren. He always struggles with players like that.
Sorry, did you just say Kane's not the threat against Lovren?
I said with
straight face. All right, I see. I was going to say, Kane effectively got.
You already
Lovren's...
had your turn. You had your 10.
He got him subbed off after 30 minutes this season. Let's not forget that.
Okay, so I think that England really do have the pace to threaten Croatia. I think Croatia in their midfield obviously has the advantage. Rakitic and Modric are just so composed and so creative. But I think that this game is going to suit Croatia a little bit more just because they're going to be able to play exactly how they did against Argentina. They're going to be able to sit in a little bit and not allow the pace to attack them. And then they're going to attack on a counterattack through their midfield, get it out wide, and create for Mandzukic, who could take his chance at any time because he's a striker at the highest level. I think that England are going to struggle with breaking down a team that's going to sit a little bit deeper. And I think Croatia are definitely favored slightly. And that was a weird way to say that because definitely and slightly. But I'm going Croatia wins this one, and it might go all the way to penalties in the most English way possible to lose in a semifinal.
So for me,
we'll win on penalties. That's not my fair. Yeah. We've put those ghosts to rest now.
Yeah.
So.
Oh God, here comes their confidence here.
Yeah. So for
no, because I think it won't go to penalties because we'll lose 1-0 in normal time.
Okay.
That's not confidence.
So for me, just echoing a lot of what you guys have already said. Now, we haven't touched on Croatia has played back-to-back 120-minute matches that have each gone to penalties. They
That's
also
right.
send home a player, so they're down one player less than everyone else. So they just have a 22-person roster. They've had a couple guys injured. I don't know what Vasalko's injury situation is.
I think it's fit.
And is he fit?
I think so,
Okay.
yeah.
But still, I mean, they're definitely not 100%. They're definitely the most beat up team out of all the teams remaining at this point. So that's going to factor into it. Now, I think for me, Rebic has been the breakout player of this entire World Cup. I knew almost nothing about him before the World Cup started, and I follow soccer, pretty detailed. And I thought he's had a fantastic tournament. I mean, he's played, he's gotten goals when they needed to. He's been an outlet. He's played at center forward when there have been injuries. Like, I just think he's been so versatile. And so him on one wing, Perisic on the other, I really like what they're doing. Now, from the England side, I mean, England has found ways to get goals through set pieces, and they've been fairly organized defensively, and they haven't really given up a ton of chances. So, I mean, this is really, really tight to call. I'm going to give England the slight edge, though, just based on the fact that they're fresher. I think they're a little bit younger, and it's more just like a war of attrition, and they'll find a way to get through. And it's going to be a 1-goal game, maybe a 2-1 or something like that. But I think I think England finds a way to get a result. JS.
Do you know, I think that's a really good point, and I have been thinking about that, but then I realised I think Croatia had pretty much a week. I think it was it a full week in between those two games?
In between which games?
The two.
Sorry, the two you mentioned that we're talking about currently.
16 and 8.
The 16th and then the quarterfinals?
Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, it was Denmark and what's wrong with me?
Russia.
Russia, yeah. I think in our advantage, I think we're overall a slightly stronger team than Denmark, and definitely Russia. And if those two can push them all the way, I think you're probably right. And like you say, they've played 2 very, very long matches in a row. Maybe. We'll see. I can just see more. I can just see. I'm trying to analyze it in a kind of professional-ish context without letting my heart get in the way, because it means so much to me that we're in the semi-final. You have no idea. But I think Modric and Rakitic, if we don't go to a double pivot and do what Russia and Denmark tried to do to them, we're going to really struggle. I can't see how we're controlling the midfield, and I can't see how it's good for a team like us to let them have the ball and counter. We don't play like that. We're a possession-based team, so,
Okay. Christian, I think, has to go.
I have to leave. Sorry.
Okay. We thank him for being here. So see you, Christian. But yeah, I think
Christian.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a tight match. Either way, it should be a lot of fun, and whoever wins is going to the World Cup final. So I could see it going either way. Christian brought up really good points about why Croatia may prevail, and I think we've brought up good points about England. Matt, anything else you wanted to add about anything we've talked about?
No, I don't think so.
JS, what about you?
Just one really quick thing about Mbappe, actually, because I can't believe we've barely mentioned him, and then I will forgot somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I know he's had his big money move to PSG and all the rest of it, and has been so highly publicised. But he's the breakout star of the tournament. Do you know what I mean? Over Rebic, because yes, we all knew his potential. Well, no, I mean, even how good he is at the age of 19, but actually to do it at the age of 19 on the world stage and to do what he's done has just been incredible. Like you touched on that incredible back heel thing was just like, I feel like he's the real deal. I mean, like Neymar, when he kind of broke out 4 years ago and then was really unlucky, broke his back, didn't he?
Yep.
Or broke a bone in his back.
Colombian player broke his back.
That doesn't surprise me based on that game this tournament. But, I mean, it's hard to feel sympathy for Neymar given how he is. But you know what I mean? I feel like he would have done what Mbappe has done this tournament fully, that tournament 4 years ago. But I feel like Mbappe's different even to Neymar. I feel like Mbappe is. I really do believe we're watching the birth of. And it feels like watching Messi when he first came out again. I think is that good. I really do.
Yeah, I think he is kind of the heir to the Ballon d'Or. I'd agree with that. For me, when I was talking about breakout players, I mean, I was more talking about someone who I had no idea who they were. And yeah, Matt, what about your thoughts on Mbappe?
Yeah, I was actually going to bring it up earlier and forgot, but he's unreal.
We all did, Matt.
Yeah.
We all
forgot. I was thinking about
somehow
it
it's like it's probably the greatest player in the world for like the next 10 years, and somehow we all neglected to mention him until now. So yeah.
Oh well. His ability to just play so well at Monaco at 17, 18, and then go to PSG, for that big money, all the pressure, perform there. And then go to the national team at the World Cup at 19 and be able to perform there and like legitimately have the same pressure that Pogba, Griezmann have on their back. He's just handling it so well.
Yeah,
his flourishing. He's just. I think he's like. He might even. I don't mean in terms of necessarily just pure bona fide talent. But I actually think in terms of what he might achieve in the game, I think he might even end up above Messi and Ronaldo, because that right.
It's a little early.
No. I'm not saying he is now. I'm saying he could go on and become that. I've kind of got a gut instinct about him in the same way that when Messi first started breaking out, I think he's like that, and I think he'll win more.
So we have that on record. We'll
win more what exactly?
I think he'll win the World Cup this year at 19.
Oh yeah,
I think which neither of those have done. I think they'll win the Euros in 2 years, and given the age of a lot of the French players, they could have a very, very good chance of winning in Qatar if it's going to be in Qatar.
Okay, so you mean more at the national level, or do you mean at the club level as well?
And European as well. I think he'll win. I think he'll win loads. I think he'll, wherever he ends up, if he stays at PSG, I think they'll eventually get their shit together in the Champions League and go on and win things.
Okay. Okay, so you heard it here first. We'll be following that along the way. He definitely has incredible talent, and it's just so hard to avoid injuries. So for me, just to give a quick, just addressing that, to avoid injuries, to adapt your game as you go on. Somebody who's more of a flair player, getting kicked for so many years, whether it's just losing a step here or there, or just having to adapt your game. I think it's absolutely unworldly what Ronaldo and Messi have been able to do over the years, and so I think there've been a lot of players that have that talent. That just, there's so many things that happen and that can derail a career. And so I certainly hope that Mbappe.
I do know what you're saying, but I don't think they've had that level of talent. Do you know what I mean? I think he's different. There are players that are kind of lauded and touted as world class, even like Griezmann or Pogba or whoever. Or even Neymar, but I just think there's something different about him. I think he's even above all of those. And even if he does get injured at some point and it derails it to a certain extent, I think there are some players that at their peak are so much better than other players. And it doesn't matter how long they do it for. I think the original Brazilian Ronaldo, for example, is better than Ronaldo. Not for longevity, because if you're going on longevity, Gareth Barry would be one of the world's greatest players in history. Do you know what I mean? It's how they are at their absolute peak and what they can do for the game. It's like Cruyff or Pele or Beckenbauer or Bobby Moore for England. It's that. I think he's got that. I think he's that good.
Okay. All right. We're going to philosophically, I have differences, and it's probably, we're already almost an hour in, and, we can have an entire podcast devoted to that conversation. Cause I've argued different things along those lines. Matt, anything else you want to chime in here?
No, I'm just gonna let that go.
Okay. All right. Let's leave it where it is. We'll pick up that discussion at some time on a future pod because I feel like that would be a really good discussion. Now, before we get out of here, please go check out the Soccer Tavern. It's a YouTube channel where I have videos about the history, culture, and philosophy of the beautiful game. So we have all different kinds of YouTube videos on there, videos about Premier League club histories. We have terminology videos about why it's called a pitch or a nutmeg or a cap or something like that. And we also have national team history videos for all 32 teams that played at the World Cup. With the World Cup kind of coming to an end, I'm starting to do my research, and we're going to have some new videos coming out in the not too distant future. So please go check out the Soccer Tavern. We have it linked in the video description, podcast, show notes. JS, can you remind people about football in the city and where to find you?
Site's launching on the 1st of August, which is a Wednesday. I was going to launch it on Bastille Day, but it's the day before the World Cup final, so I just thought, fuck that in the end. Moved it back 2 weeks, and yeah, Twitter is at Ball in the City.
Yep.
By the way, you just mentioned caps. I've actually worn an England cap before.
Have you?
Yeah, there was a guy who grew up in my village. His granddad was Frank Swift. He played for City, I think, in the 50s, and he played for England, and he had them all in a trunk, and they get physical caps each time they play for England.
Yep.
So you think of Rooney with his 100 caps, he will literally have 100 caps.
So we talk about that in the video. If he played at a World Cup, he will have a cap of honor, and for every game at that World Cup, he will only have just one cap representing all of those. But you can check out all of that information in our cap video on the Soccer Tavern. But JS is spot on with all of that. If you want to get in contact with us, our Twitter's at BT Soccer Pod. Go give us a follow there and interact with us. If you want to email us, our email is bros.talking.soccer@gmail.com. Please check out our website, brostalkingsoccerpodcast.com. You can read about us, check out past episodes, and we just added a store. So we've been doing this for almost 2 years at this point, and haven't done any ads or anything like that. We are trying to at least cover the costs of creating this. So if you buy anything on Amazon, go to our store section on our site. We have a link there that you can click off of, and we just get a small percentage. Again, no additional cost to you or anything like that, but we get a little percentage of whatever you end up buying. Also, we have recommendations on like some of my favorite, soccer books, which you can see in the background here if you're watching on YouTube. We have some of those on there. We have like some video games, some podcasting equipment, just some recommendations. So please go check out the website, and if you're buying something on Amazon, please feel free to support us. JS, thanks so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. Toodle pip.
All right, there you have it. Go England. Matt, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right, listeners and viewers, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll talk to you tomorrow after England versus Croatia. See you, everybody.
It's coming home.
It's coming home. There you go.